you so much for coming out on this brilliant day today to help with the opening celebration of the Cambridge Common Reconstruction work. My name is Iram Farooq. I'm the Assistant City Manager for Community Development. And along with a whole lot of other departments, our department has been working on this project for over 15 years. So it's a real thrill to see it all come to fruition now. I want to start by introducing our very first speaker, Rich Rossi, who is the City Manager of Cambridge, and he has been a champion of not just this project, but for his 45 years with the city, has been an incredible champion of open space and of providing great opportunities for people to come together and engage and connect with each other. So this is a prime example of that. So with that, I will turn it over to Rich Rossi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Iram, and I want to welcome everyone here. This is a really special day for us. As Iram said, we've been really trying to get this project funded and completed since the early 1990s. I mean, the project was originally done in the 1970s. It was a much different era. Funds weren't available that needed to be available. The city was rushing at the time to get the job done to coincide with the bicentennial celebration. Things just didn't go right. And for many, many years, for over 20 years, the city really labored with the fact that, boy, this could have been a greater project. So there are so many people to thank today, and we will get along with that. But I do want to just say that I want to call out in the beginning to Suzanne Rasmussen, who was the, you can say, thorn in the side, the catalyst, the person that pushed it, just had some really great ideas when this project seemed like it couldn't go anywhere. The idea was, why don't we make it a transportation project? And as we will hear today, the rest is history. So we figured out how to take a park and make it a transportation project, and that's how we got it done. And the world was changing then. And you know, issues for bicyclists and greater pedestrian safety were of a concern, and this project really fit into that. So in thanking all of you for coming out today, I also want to say special thanks to Secretary Pollock from the Commonwealth of Mass. Secretary Pollock has been a great partner for the City of Cambridge in many, many arenas, and is working really hard with us to make Cambridge really stand in the forefront, supporting all kinds of transportation projects and improvements, not only for this community, but for the region. And special thanks to Secretary Pollock. I also want to thank our state representative, former City Councilor Marjorie Decker. Anytime we seem to be faltering or falling behind, one phone call to Marjorie Decker, I have her on speed dial, takes care of everything. So Marjorie, thank you for your support. From the City Council today, we have City Councilor Jan Devereaux. Jan? And we also have the best dressed person here today. He and I usually try and battle for this, but he beat me today, I'll admit it. I went on the casual side. City Councilor Dennis Carlone. Dennis. In a few minutes, you'll hear from the Vice Mayor. But so in this project, you know, this is about the Cambridge and Flagstaff Park and a multi-use path project. The Common is one of the city's central green spaces and our most historic open space. Dating back to the early days of settlement in Cambridge, the Common has always been a gathering place for the community, from keeping animals in older days to enjoying the new tot lot to sitting and relaxing and enjoying pickup sports. The Common is also an incredibly busy transportation node with over 10,000 people a day who walk and bike through it or take the bus. The rehab of the Common has been a long time in coming. As I had indicated earlier, it was first renovated in the 70s and had really seen better days. There were major drainage issues, broken pavement, outdated benches and lighting that were coming to an end of their useful inefficiency. The project is a comprehensive renewal of the Common's infrastructure as well as a restoration of many of the historic features. This project includes new pathways, granite edging, new energy-saving LED lights, new drainage and irrigation, signs, trash and recycling, as well as the planting of over 120 new trees which will grow and last for many generations. Many historic elements of the Common were also restored, including the ironwork at the Daughters of the American Revolution entry gate, historical signs, and the cleaning and painting of the cannon, which should be returned in the next few weeks, along with the wooden cradles. A handsome new kiosk at the entry gate also includes information about the history of the Common, as well as a wayfinding map for visitors. The Veterans Department has also taken the opportunity to fly new flags in the Common in the area of the cannons on newly painted flag poles installed by the Department of Public Works. Across Mass Ave at Flagstaff Park, we took the opportunity to show our commitment to sustainable transportation by taking an unused roadway space to enlarge the park and install a two-way multi-use path to create better walking and biking connections between Harvard Square and this section of Mass Ave. 1% for the arts from the renovation of the Cambridge Common will go towards a 2017 series of temporary public art installations and performances by multiple artists organized by the Arts Council and entitled Common Commons. That relate to the connectivity of citizens to each other in the public space, specifically this historic public place at the heart of our city. The project embodies the comprehensive approach that Cambridge likes to take when tackling a project to make most of our assets to enrich the lives of residents and improve livability and sustainability in the city. Our partnership among city departments and with MassDOT to design and arrange coordinated funding of the project made it all possible. So I want to say thank you, and when I come back to close at the end, I have several people and organizations which I would like to mention, but I would say that we are really so pleased to finally have this project completed, and I do want to give some thanks to our former city manager Bob Healy, who really worked to keep the ball in the air by putting funding as much as we could each year until we were able to get the final funding that put us over the cliff and get this job done and get it done the right way. So we're very pleased. I will now turn it back to Aaron.
Thank you, Rich. As Rich mentioned, this project would not have been feasible without the help and partnership of the Commonwealth. And so they have MassDOT, particularly the Department of Transportation, has been a partner in funding the project and in the construction and construction management. And I would like to welcome the Secretary of Transportation and the CEO of the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, Stephanie Pollock, who has been a great friend of Cambridge and of multimodal transport.
For us, this is really about multimodal transportation, about the multi-use paths that crisscross the commons that are heavily used by people walking, by people on bicycles, by people who are using our very popular buses that run along Massachusetts Avenue, and that's an appropriate use of transportation resources. There's actually a federal program from which some of the funding for this came, called the Enhancements Program, and the whole idea of that program is to sort of enhance non-vehicle transportation to make it better so that more people are willing to walk, bike, and use transit. And this project is really a great example of that.
Thank you very much, Secretary Pollock. In addition to the immensely important partnership of the state, the city has had an incredible leadership role, particularly the City Council, in making this project a reality. So to speak on behalf of the City Council, I'd like to welcome our Vice Mayor, Mark McGovern.
Here are just a few facts about the Common that, even as someone who grew up here, I didn't know. Sometimes when you grow up in a place, you don't take the time to really think about what the historical value, because it's, tourists do that and, whatever, but you don't necessarily do that as a resident. So I was really pleased to learn some things, and I want to thank Kit from the Historical Commission who really put this together. So on the east side of the Commons once stood the Election Oak, beneath which free elections were held in the 17th and 18th centuries. Townspeople also gather there to discuss grievances and resolve disputes. So maybe our summer meeting, we can do a field trip and gather under a tree and, hear what people have to say. On the northwest side was Whitefield Elm. In 1740, the famed English evangelist Reverend George Whitefield shook the dry bones in town and college with his bold and emotional preaching. He criticized the New England clergy for their lack of piety and attacked Harvard College for its low standard of morals. There you go. I'm not going to touch that one. On the night of April 18th, 1775, we know that William Dawes, in his ride to warn townspeople of the British, came through here, and we celebrate that every year on the Common. Soon after the events of Lexington and Concord, militia companies throughout New England began to gather on the Common, living in tents, makeshift shelters, hastily erected barracks. General George Washington arrived in Cambridge on the afternoon of July 2nd, 1775. He successfully conducted the siege of Boston. British troops fled that town on March 17th, 1776. And he took over and really created the United States Army right here on the Common in Cambridge. After the Revolution, the unfenced common became a busy crossroads, intersected by major roads, including the Cambridge and Concord Turnpike, on its way to the Longfellow Bridge. Cattle were housed here overnight on their way to Slaughterhouse in Brighton. And then in 1830, after decades of controversy, the Common became an enclosed park. And then a little bit about the statue behind us. After the Civil War, the Common was seen as a civic space suitable for monuments and commemorations. In 1870, the Civil War Monument was designed by twin brothers Cyrus and Darius Cobb. Samuel Chamberlain, a commissioned lieutenant in the 1st Volunteer Militia Company who was raised in Cambridge in 1861, modeled for the Mustache Rifleman atop the memorial. The bronze statue of Lincoln was not installed until 1937, purchased with contributions from citizens, the city, and Cambridge school children who responded generously to the slogan, "A Lincoln penny for a Lincoln statue." So, and then in the 70s, the Common was the site of anti-war demonstrations, civil rights protests, and public concerts. So, the Common has played just such an important historical role in the city. It's great to have it renovated. It's great to have it continue to be a place where people can gather and share ideas and walk through and enjoy the open space in a city that's becoming everly more dense and crowded. So, Rich, I'm sure will thank people more specifically, but on behalf of the City Council, I just want to thank everybody who had a part in making this project possible, and we thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And we've now heard from on behalf of elected officials from the city, and we'd like to welcome Representative Decker, who will be speaking on behalf of elected officials at the state level. And as Rich mentioned, she has been an advocate, a champion, a catalyst for incredible projects in the city of Cambridge during her tenure at City Council as well as now at the state. So,
thank you, Aram. I want to say thank you to Aram. I think she has one of the hardest jobs in the whole city of Cambridge as head of community development, and also one of the most important jobs because it's really about touching people's lives and also managing the infrastructure in which we gather and move. I want to thank Secretary Pollock. Thank you so much for taking time out of your weekend to be here. And more importantly, thank you for being in touch and in partnership with the City of Cambridge. It's also really quite wonderful to know that you yourself have a long, lovely relationship with the City of Cambridge as well. So please always consider this home as well. I also want to thank the Department of Transportation and the Highway District 6. I want to thank the staff for all the work that you do. I want to thank Don Daly, who's not only an important guy to know at the Department of Transportation, but a little known secret, he's a Cambridge guy. That makes him special in my eyes, and a really important conduit for me as a state rep when trying to figure out issues that I need with DOT. I want to say that this is a transportation project, and I'm actually happy that not only were we creative enough to think about it, but genuinely it is, and I'm glad that it was recognized as such. This is the gateway to Harvard Square for a lot of people. It's also the gateway home, whether that's another neighborhood through Cambridge or another community through Cambridge. It's also a place where people really use to travel from A to B to C, whether it's somebody who's pushing a stroller, and this is a far safer place to do that, whether it's a senior or somebody who just has a little bit more challenges physically walking and really needs to feel safe in this large crossover and has a place of respite. The Cambridge Common has a history of being, I think, a haven for all kinds of activity and all kinds of people. It really is the people's park. And it's the people's park that helps move people in and out of the city, in and out of the neighborhood. I also feel at this time to acknowledge the important safety additions and enhancements that will allow not only pedestrians but also cyclists. We just recently had another senseless and tragic bicycle death in Cambridge, and my heart is really aching for the family and the community of people who lost this vibrant young woman way too soon. It's important that whenever we have the possibility to find out how can we reconfigure and rethink about transportation as pedestrians, as runners, as walkers, as cyclists, as drivers, that we do that. And this is an example of one of those opportunities that took several years to think about, conceive, move forward, and finish, but it's happened. So on behalf of my colleagues in the state government, and in partnership with the administration and with my my beloved city of Cambridge, I want to say thank you for all of you, all of the partnerships that made this happen.
Thank you, Representative Decker. I'll say the Vice Mayor spoke a lot about the history of this space that we're standing in, but I would like to welcome Charlie Sullivan, who's the director of the Cambridge Historical Commission, to shed some more light on this incredible space that was here from the time of the inception of the city and continues to be part of the heart of Cambridge. So Charlie Sullivan.
You already know the history of Cambridge Common, but I want to talk about it a little bit as a space and the kind of space it is. For the first 200 years, this was an undifferentiated open space. It was not defined by the roads as it is today. The roads went straight across it. It was just dusty, open, a few random trees from the property lines on either side. In 1830, as a park movement began to sweep New England, that's the decade when New England town commons, as we know them today, really took hold. Boston fenced, enclosed its common in 1820. Cambridge tried to do the same. The drovers and people who kept their cattle here overnight rebelled, and it took an act of the legislature in 1830 to allow the town, at the expense of individuals, not at the expense of the town, to enclose the common with this granite post and rail fence, the same fence we have today, and to divert the streets that used to cross the common off to Mass Avenue and to Garden Street. So from 1830 on, it became a public park with grass, a few deciduous trees. In 1870, the idea of a Civil War monument was controversial. Some folks in Old Cambridge didn't want to remember the war, but the town sentiment was clearly in favor of having this monument here. And then gradually a few more monuments were placed in the common over the years. The common pretty much stayed the same until World War I, when the Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the Undersecretary of the Navy, managed to get the City Council to turn the common over to the Navy Department. Almost all the trees were removed. The entire common was covered with barracks for the U.S. Navy radio school that Harvard hosted for a year during World War I. So the common was then renovated in 1920 into the form that we recognize today, and not touched again for another 55 years until 1975, when, as Rich told you, it was done quite quickly for the bicentennial and not so well. Over the years, we've tried to maintain the conservative landscape character of this space. Boston has its public garden as well as its common. The common is simple, large deciduous trees, straight paths, grass. Public garden has ornamental water features, fountains, perennial plants. It's an ornate space. We've kept this space simple. We've resisted the flower beds. We've resisted the skating rink, the Ferris wheel, all the other ideas that have come along from time to time, and kept it simple in a modern fashion in a way that will sustain the needs of the people of Cambridge and allow this landscape to be maintained properly for decades and decades and decades to come. I think this time we've finally done it, and I'm really proud to have been associated with this, with the designers, Halverson, who've been so careful, with the craftsmen from Newport and their subcontractors who've done such a fine job restoring all of this fabric and installing the new facilities that we have here. So thank you very much.
I want to say thank you, welcome to the Common today, enjoy it, and we just look for greater things here. Thank you so much.